How do you overcome procrastination? Because procrastination is the killer of dreams, as I'm sure you would agree with me. How many times are you wanting to get stuff done, but you delay, you want to think about it some more, you want to weigh up all your options, you say you'll do it next week, you'll do it the month afterwards, and then another day, another week, another month, another year, another decade has gone, and still haven't done what you said you were going to do. It's a familiar story, isn't it? We're going to hear from Kevin Schouweiler today, who's going to give you the secret sauce or the process for you to overcome procrastination and also to stop cravings, stop alcohol cravings. Kevin hasn't drunk in, I think, about 13 years. We're going to go now to Austin, Texas, and you're going to hear the keynote talk that he gave at the Alcohol-Free Wellness Weekend back in January. And you'll hear me introducing him properly there, so I won't repeat myself now. But if you've ever struggled with procrastination, you will definitely want to listen to today's episode. If you would like to speak verbally to one of my coaches, then you're welcome to do so. You can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. The link is also in the description. The YouTube channel's over at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. I can send you a free book if you'd like one. The book is called The 30-Day No Alcohol Challenge. If you want to just take a little glimpse at the process that we walk our clients through in Project 90, then you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/book. The book is free. I just ask you to pay the shipping. It'll be about $7 or $8. And there are some links in the description of this episode as well. So let's learn how to overcome procrastination. Here is me introducing Kevin Schouweiler. I started helping people to reduce or quit drinking back in 2015 when I started an online program called 30-Day No Alcohol Challenge. And it was just a little program with a video a day for 30 days that helped people take a break from alcohol. And not long after I created that program, our next speaker reached out to me because he heard me on my podcast. And that was, as they said in kind of Casablanca, the movie, it was the start of a beautiful friendship. And Kevin, who's our next speaker, went on to be one of our top coaches in our organization. In fact, he was the top Project 90 coach. For those who don't know what Project 90 is, Project 90 is a program that helps folks quit drinking for at least 90 days and transform their life in health, wealth, love, and happiness. It's not just about quitting alcohol. It's about getting long-term power over alcohol and also changing your life, like having conversations like with your father, like I just referenced before, or being more present for your children, or losing 20 pounds and so forth. And our next speaker was really instrumental in helping me develop our programs over the years and is responsible for transforming hundreds of people's lives because he gave them his presence and his intuition and his education. And he's just a wonderful, wonderful friend and an incredible coach, as I'm sure some of you can attest to. I know Julie can. Julie was our client when Kevin was coaching. And he's a certified neuro-linguistic programming coach. He's also just a wonderful man. And he's going to be talking today on a simple technique to overcome cravings and procrastination. So would you please give a warm welcome to Kevin Schouweiler.
Thank you, James. So, it's fun because we're starting in January here. I know many of you stepped into 2022, probably had a little reflection, a little thought of the last year, what that was like, and you probably said to yourself, I want a little change, I want a little upgrade in this area of my life. Or I want to see some progress over here, okay? Does that relate to anybody? You want to see something different this year? I know for me that's true. I always want to see progress as I'm moving forward in life. And for many of us, we start with these great intentions, but already you're probably seeing friends that are now 3 weeks into things and they're already a little shaky on that path that they started out at, yeah? And so it's usually right about this time, about 3 weeks in, that we see people falling off their New Year's resolutions of going to the gym, starting that new diet, shifting up something, whether it's I want to quit smoking, quit drinking, stop eating the sweets after dinner is done, right? And why is that? Well, we have great intentions, but we don't have a lot of follow-through for many reasons. I'm going to dig into some of the psychology today of why that's something that's in the way, and how we can use at least one effective tool to overcome those pieces and really see some lasting change in our life. Does that sound good? Okay, great. Now, as James mentioned, thank you for that kind introduction. I've been working with many people, hundreds of people now at this point, to make real change in their behaviors, but what's underneath the behaviors is also what precedes it. It's the relationship that they have with a particular rhythm, or whether it's a substance, an action. We have a relationship to everything in our world. I have a relationship to James. James is a friend of mine. I have a relationship to Julie. We've gotten to know each other over time. I have a relationship to things outside of people, though, not just with family, intimate partner, friends. I have a relationship to team members or clients, but I also have a relationship to what my work is. I have a relationship to working out, and I have a relationship to food. So if you look at these individual pieces in our life that we want to see change with, I would look at it in terms of a relationship. And I'm sure you've heard Coach V talk about that a little bit on what it is to shift a relationship for some of you that worked with her. So we're going to talk a little bit about the relationship. Now, I want to make this very interactive so that you guys get to be involved in this process. I'm not just going to talk at you. I'm going to have you follow along with my journey. Does that sound good? Cool. I know you guys want to see change in your life. Wouldn't it be great if I walked out of here with a tool and a real plan to put some of those things in motion so that we see the change we want to see in 2022? Sound good? Okay. So one of those big pieces I use is called the triangle of transformation. Triangle of transformation. I'm going to use the whiteboard over here for a minute. So here we have the triangle. And if you want, I'm just going to use a big T in the middle to represent that transformation you want to see. Okay? Now there's going to be 3 sides to this triangle that are going to really hold it in place to really see that long-term transformation. Okay? Many of us, like I said, we start out, good intentions, already 3 weeks in, people are falling off in 2022. What's going to make a difference for you? So the first, and you can follow along with me a little bit here. The first one is the letter C here, and that's going to stand for our commitment. Okay? Write that down, commitment. If you've ever started something and not been fully committed, what does it feel like? It's like, I kind of want to not do the sweets thing, but man, they really have dessert on the menu right now. I mean, maybe. And you're negotiating with yourself, going back and forth, yeah? And it feels like resistance. Somebody told me before, it's actually a speaker that you'll be seeing tomorrow. He was a mentor of mine. And he liked to say that 99% is no fun. If I'm 100% committed, it's a breeze. If it's 99% or below, that little 1%, that's a real pain. That's no fun. Okay? And that 1 or 2%, it's like my toe is sticking out the back door and somebody slamming that toe in the doorway, right? So what are the pieces of commitment? We'll break that down in just a moment. But I'm going to introduce the other 2 sides here really quick. I'm just going to come over here for the mic. Okay? So P is our next side. That's going to stand for process. Process. Okay? How many of you have been committed to doing a workout plan with a buddy or a diet? And about 2 or 3 weeks in, you're like, oh my gosh, this doesn't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I'm doing the work, but it feels like I'm kind of just plateauing. Maybe it's in weight loss. I know a lot of people, you find that shelf where you move down several pounds, you hit a spot, and it just kind of stays stuck. Now, as James likes to say, the master always expects that plateau, but the process may be something that we look to of what's going to move us through that particular area. Okay? So process will be really important. Now the last piece, which many of you are very familiar with, and I don't know if anyone can see that in the back row, but that's a letter A, and that's going to stand for accountability. Okay? Accountability.
I'm going to have you use the black pen.
Yeah.
The camera. Yeah.
Great. Yep. Go back through with this. All right. Now, I'm going to break down 3 pieces on each of these so that we have some real clarity on this. Because all that sounds great, but what is this all for? Okay. So right now, let's look at commitment. With our commitment, when we're 100% and it's a breeze, how do I get there? There's 2 things that drive our human behavior. There's pleasure, and then there's a lack of pleasure, also known as pain. Okay? Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. If you've ever been to one of his events, he's a big proponent of looking at these 2 areas if we want to see lasting change. And I'm going to give you a framework on how you can use this to your benefit. So with pleasure, oh my gosh, I just love dessert. I can't believe I can't have it. I can't have a cheat day on this diet. Well, if I was feeling that dessert is pleasure, and what I'm in right now is the lack of pleasure, it's going to feel like resistance, right? You're going to have that little bit of rub in there. It's like, oh, okay? So how we shift and move those things is going to be a little bit process, which will move over here a little bit accountability, okay? So with pain and pleasure responses, okay? If I think that dessert is pleasurable and I'm depriving myself of it, it's no fun, right? So how we break this out is using the pain and pleasure things to our benefit. So first, there's 3 pieces inside of commitment to tease out those pain and pleasure pieces and what we want to create, okay? So if I want to see lasting change, and let's take an example here. I'm going to have everybody stop for a moment and think about one area that you want to see change in, okay? Do you want to see change in your health? Do you want to see change in productivity or output? Do you want to see change in relationships? Okay. Why haven't I already seen that already? I would say that you haven't seen it already because there's still something in the way with these 3 pieces. Okay. But now that you have that thing in mind, does everyone have something? Yeah? Anyone not have something? Feel free to raise your hand if you don't. Okay, perfect. You guys all want to see change? So these three pieces break down, and we're going to use this in a tool later that we're going to call the doorway. Okay, but first we're going to tease them out. So it's going to be an interactive process. So I'll break it down for you first, and then we're going to get pen to paper. So the first is we want to see the pain of our past. Someone told me before, there's no reason for change unless the impact up till now has been great enough. That's a writer downer. The impact is what makes change. That's the wake-up call. All right? I like to say that there's really no good or bad, no right or wrong. It's simply human perception and the impact. And so some people think alcohol is good. Some people think alcohol is bad. I used to think alcohol is good. Oh, it's so much fun. I'm now here 13 years alcohol-free. Something shifted because of the impact. I didn't like what the results were that were showing up. Okay? Nicotine. I used to think having a smoke break was amazing. Oh, get out of the stress. And then eventually the impact. I didn't really like how I was feeling. Right? Like, I don't like this smell or the stigma or feeling like I was trapped in that behavior. So the impact was starting to become great enough. Most recently, I still use these tools today. How many of you have a Starbucks cup of coffee? Okay? Yeah. I used to love coffee. Coffee was amazing. Oh, I look forward to that part of my morning. I'm now here 6 months coffee-free. And some of you guys are like, what? Are you crazy? Are you crazy?
We don't have to quit coffee with this program, right?
No. Great question. No. Yeah, I'm out of here. I'm done. No, like I said, there's no reason for change unless the impact is great enough. So no, coffee isn't good or bad. It was simply for me. Now, I wasn't necessarily about the caffeine. Oh my gosh, I'm too jittery. I had a back injury last year. And over the course of the last year, my diet had gone downhill. I started to put on weight. Okay, I wasn't moving as much. It was very upsetting emotionally for me because of the things I loved to do. I was no longer able to just freely go engage with. And what I found is, okay, the diet was impacting my well-being, and coffee, specifically coffee and a few other acidic foods, were impacting my overall gut health. And I was having acid reflux. It was affecting my sleep. I was waking up in the middle of the night. And so now all of a sudden, this thing that I loved, coffee, I could tell it was having an impact. And so, time for change, okay? Wake-up call. And I'll talk about those next pieces on how that works in a minute. But with the wake-up call of coffee, now having acid reflux, okay, time for me to look at this a little differently. And then most recently, you ready for this one? Ice cream. I am 4 months without having a single spoonful of ice cream. And Jay knows what I mean. He knows what I mean. And some of you guys think that is absolutely crazy. Now, I'm not asking anybody to get rid of your ice cream or your coffee, right?
I'm asking you.
Okay. Again, there's no reason for change unless the impact is great enough. And I knew for myself I was using ice cream to numb out, relax, not look at the stress. But the impact was like, I am now 30 pounds heavier than where I was a year ago. A year ago. That's not where I wanted to be. Okay? Wake-up call. So the pain of the past is really great to wake us up, right? So the next piece that I'm going to dig into is the pain of our future if the current behavior persists. Okay? So we've gotten an impact up till now. What's not working that's already looking not so fun as I'm stepping in 2022 and I want change? We know that one. But play it out. What would happen the next morning if I have that same behavior? The next week, month, year, decade? Where am I going to be with health, relationships, productivity? Okay? If you play out the movie, that's enough for me to go, it may not be bad enough till now, but maybe when I look at a year, 2, 5, 10 years out, I'm not sure I like who I'm showing up as, okay? So the pain of the future and the pain of the past, when we marry those two things together, we have enough reason for change. But that's not enough for overall transformation, okay? How many of us have said, I'm fed up with the way my body looks, I'm starting that workout. And you get into it, and it's painful, and it's arduous, and I want a rest day, and I give up, right? Maybe a day or a week or 3 weeks in, I give up. And so now, adding in the pleasure part, if I'm still perceiving pleasure either on the old behavior or not following through with the new behavior, I'm not going to have a recipe for follow-through, okay? So we need a worthwhile future to move towards. Who are you going to be tomorrow, next week, next year, in a decade if I make real change in my life? Well, let's take a real example. So for me, I never could perceive in my early 20s alcohol-free in any length of time being pleasurable, because that's deprivation. I mean, how would I navigate a basketball game or a football game or a social event? Or it's like this was my comfort. That was the thing that put me at ease or comfortability in my own skin. And what I realized is my worthwhile future, I couldn't perceive it because I wasn't allowing myself permission, okay? So we need permission, and this is a writer-downer, to give ourselves permission for you to conceive a worthwhile future. I'm sure you guys are probably thinking, this guy is nuts about the ice cream, though. That can't be worthwhile to go ice cream free for 4 months, right? But for me, I don't focus on the deprivation. It's not about what not to do. It's about what you get to see in your life. So for me, it was about feeling not just 30 pounds floating away. It's high energy throughout the day, feeling good about my activities and movement with body, flexibility and agility coming back. Okay? It was about feeling higher levels of self-esteem, self-confidence, self-worth as I moved towards progress. And happiness, very fleeting emotion. If you've ever tried to recreate a really fun time, like maybe you had an amazing birthday, and you're like, okay, I'm going to get all this stuff together. We're going to do the birthday. I'm going to have all the same friends. We're going to go to that same place and do the same activity. And it falls flat. Why is that? Because the sequel is not as good as the original. Because we have expectation. Okay? So if I take out the expectation, I throw it out. Now I have an organic new experience which can create a peak state. There's pleasure involved. Okay? So with these worthwhile futures, likely what we might experience is that we'll perceive what it is based on our past. We'll perceive that our future is going to be like something we experienced in the past. It's got to come from a blank slate. So a new experience, okay? So when I say the sequel is not as good as the original, well, let's not try to create a happy time. Let's instead try to create a blank slate that moves towards progress. Okay? Progress can create fulfillment, and fulfillment can supersede or trump those feelings of happiness in a moment. Because even if I'm feeling sad or frustrated or upset, if I'm finding progress and real fulfillment in my life, I'm like, oh, it's a terrible afternoon. My boss yelled at me. But I'll feel like, okay, my life's progressing now. I'm not going to just throw it away and kill the diet or skip my workout or drink or have a smoke break when I said I was committed, because my future is too great. Okay? So I've been talking at you a lot. I want to get your pens to paper. Does that sound good? Okay. So in a moment here, I want you to think about these 3 areas that create commitment. So the first prompt is going to be, with the change that I want to see in 2022, what is that pain that I've experienced so far? I want you to put down at least 5 words that signify to you like why it's not been what I've been looking for. The next, I want the pain of what it would be like to keep the same stuff going on, play out that movie, a year, 5 years, 10 years. Who would I be? Write down 5 words of what that would signify. And then lastly, I want you to write down the worthwhile future, why it's worth me making long-term change. Okay? A year, 5 years, 10 years. Now, did I say all the items that Kevin listed I have to deprive myself with? No. And that, I'm sure, is a question.
What is the first one? Change, pain?
Pain of the past or impact up till now. So if I've had an impact great enough to me, and it's like, okay, I want to see change. Again, none of these things are good and bad. A lot of them are just simply personal. It's up to you whether you say I want change, right? Because I might want to go coffee free, but you might be like, no freaking way, right? Makes sense. So let's recap again. Pain of the past, like what's the impact up till now? 5 words. What's the pain if I keep this going? 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, the way I've been doing it. And what is that worthwhile future that I could be, that future conceived self? What would I experience if I play this out differently going forward? Okay? I'll give you guys a good 2 minutes. Really let the emotion come through. Some of us like to use logic to justify, but that doesn't hold for very long. We got to really feel the pain, and we got to really create the pleasure of what that future experience could create. All right, who needs more time? Does everyone have something in all 3 categories? The pain of the past, the impact, the pain of what you would experience going forward, and the third, your worthwhile future. Does everyone have something in there? Okay, perfect. Now, These are the real pieces that create the commitment. So this is what allows me to be 100% all in. When I say no more, the impact is too much. And no way, Jose, I don't want to keep going the way that I've been. This is not going to look good. And when I say, yeah, I want to go towards that, now I got a recipe here for the commitment. This side can be really strong on that train of change and transformation. But that alone isn't worth it, or it doesn't really create the long-term things. If you've ever been really committed, but not held accountable, or not had a process, what you'll typically experience here is inconsistency. Oh, I'm really committed to that diet until the environment becomes bigger, which is its own talk. We could have a whole hour just around environment, right? Or something triggering of the past, or an emotional event that feels maybe more painful or more pleasurable than my commitment. So I got to really tease these out. What I can use are these other two sides to lean on, because the inconsistency of having like, oh, my diet, I blew it, day one again, I'm going to have to start over. I got some people doing 75 hard right now. I see it all the time where they're like, as soon as you break 75 hard, if anyone knows what that is, does anyone know what 75 hard is? Okay. It's a really, it's a tough set of 75 days to really hone your mental discipline. But as soon as you break one of the days, you got to start over again. And I'm seeing day one again, day after day here. And I'm sure their commitment is there, but they're missing these other two pieces, okay? So let's talk about those. So let's go to process. If I'm doing something and I'm really committed, and I'm wanting to go see that path, but I'm doing the actions and it just kind of feels like I'm not getting anywhere, you're going to feel a lack of growth. It's not going to feel like, let's say I want to have change with my body. I want to lose that 30 pounds. Awesome, I love that. I'm really committed. But maybe my process hasn't been honed in. Well, I might be going for a walk and I might kind of change up my eating. And what's that going to reveal? I'm probably going to be at the same weight next week and feel disappointed, right? So what I would probably really have to dig into is what is that process that's going to move me towards the desired end results, or that future self that I really want to be, okay? Now, there's different ways that you can find process. I know many people choose books, YouTube, coaching programs, okay? Getting around other communities. There's different ways we can find process. If information alone was enough, we'd all have the six-pack, we'd all have, bank accounts that are bigger than life, right? But I think there's a little bit more in here for process. So knowledge is one piece, a set of steps I can move towards progress with, a real plan for clarity. Once I have the clarity, I know what my best next step is. I would also say in the process, having a feedback loop, authentic sharing. Is there a way that I can, ask for help, lean on a friend? I know for some of you guys, you're in James's program, Project 90. We have Marco Polo. It's a video-based sharing app where at any moment I can pick it up and share what's real and going on in my process with other people. And I can get feedback. People can reach out to me. That's awesome. So having authentic feedback is really important. I would say also what's in there is a container. I found that containers for myself is a really great piece of process. So with James and the 30-day no alcohol challenge, it creates a mental container. It's nothing other than a calendar with a set of 30 days or a time frame that I can perceive. But I know for me, it's 30. Or in Project 90, 90 days. Why are these 30-day challenges popping up around? Oh, sugar-free for 30 days, or no soda for 30 days. Or it's because the container piece has been a really effective process. So I would look at container. Now, when a container is finished, what do? Immediately go back to the old way of being? No. I want to stop and I want to assess. If I were to tell myself I was going to go alcohol-free for the rest of my life, it would have been a road to nowhere because my brain would have freaked out. It can't perceive much beyond a not too distant future, okay? And I'm sure for many of you that's probably similar. If you look at your results in life, you start, think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be this person, but then it's too much. I can't go that far. So setting shorter but defined time periods that we stick to, okay? So I still don't tell myself to this day, I will never have a drink. I don't tell myself I will never have nicotine, coffee, ice cream, because it's too much for my brain to handle. Anything that's uncertain is equal to death. It's like, oh my gosh, what do you mean? It's like a prison sentence. I'm not going to have ice cream for the rest of my life. You guys' face said it all right there. I don't think that's a good one. And I would have felt the same way, right? Now, I would have not even said 4 months. Instead, I started with 30 days. I said, okay, 30 days. I just want to see how I feel. Then after that 30 days, how do I feel? Okay, let's assess. Do I feel more energetic? Am I moving in a direction? Do I need to shift up the process a little bit? So it's an assessment point. And if something works, I double down on the container. So now 30 becomes 60. Okay? And then if 60 works, oh, well, what about a full 3 months or 4 months or 6? Or if 6 works and I look back and that feels good, okay, what about a year? Because I can perceive something I just did. My brain can go, oh, well, that 30 days felt good. Well, another 30 days, that sounds good, okay? So using that as a container for process, okay? Lastly, with process, I'm going to give you guys the doorway. This is what the talk was titled about. This is a process for training myself to come back to commitment, okay? So in a moment, I'm downstairs with James, we're at, let's say, the restaurant, and there's this wonderful menu of desserts. And maybe on there is ice cream. And I go, oh, but, I'm on a trip, and nobody's watching me, and I'm by myself, and James won't necessarily tell on me, will he, right? And so I could fudge a little bit, and nobody would know, but I would know. And so how do I stick to it in a moment? And this is what we're going to use. It's called the doorway. And I've used this probably thousands of times at this point, to be alcohol-free for any length of time, nicotine-free, now coffee-free, ice cream-free. And it starts with this. So remember our 3 pieces of our commitment? So pain of the past and future pain. And I think of, okay, so if I'm in a room like right here, there's a door in the back, there's a door to the side, okay? If I stay in this room, everything that's in this room is known to me from what I can see, what I've already experienced. Maybe on the other side of that door is something else. And so in my mind, I think about what I'm presented with this menu of ice cream. It's like I'm standing in the same room that I've always been in with my relationship to, let's say, ice cream. And if I stay on this side of that door, I'm going to get the same results. I'm going to eat the ice cream, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow, and I'm going to do the same behavior again, and then the weight gain, and then the energy, and you play it all out. And so how I play it out is those 2 first pieces of that commitment. It's like the idea of touching a hot stove. Have you guys touched a hot stove and felt really good about it? No, right? Do you go back and say, I wonder if that stove changed and then red hot is going to feel really awesome? No, right? And so I want it to be that quick. Then I'm like, ooh, yeah, no, past and future, no fun. But turning a doorknob's not enough. I still need to move through the door. And so that's me really powerfully stepping into that future self. And so I go, let's go. So the doorway is simply, ooh, no, hot, ooh, bad, like a stove. But with my set of past or current impact and future impact. Really quickly. I'm like, ooh, yeah, no, I know where that leads. Because I've already mapped it out, right? You guys have it on paper. But I got to feel the pain. I got to really feel it. If I just logic it, oh yeah, no, I shouldn't eat that ice cream. Suckers, I'm down in it, right? I got to actually allow myself permission to feel that pain. And what you're going to connect to is that higher version of self. Has anyone in here read The Alter Ego Effect by Todd Herman? He's a friend of James. I've had many conversations with him. He has a whole book designed about this, about stepping into this alter ego. It's like putting on a suit. And I step into another form. Now, he likes to use like superheroes. And you might think of that as like a way of like training myself to bring out certain characteristics or states. And so this is you stepping into that future self. And I'm like, yes, that future self is the person I'm moving towards. And as we define and look at who she is or who he is, we're like, oh yeah, that's what I want to feel. That's how I want to show up, okay? So I'm trying that on. Now with the doorway, we turn that doorknob like, oh yeah, no, that's not going to lead me in that direction. And when I powerfully step through the door, that's me stepping into that future state, okay? And that pulls me through. Now, what's going to help hold it in place and I don't wobble back and forth is going to be accountability, okay? Why is accountability effective? It doubles down on that side of commitment that has pain. Because not only do I want to move forward so I don't let myself down, I also don't want to let others down that might know that I'm committed to it, or maybe even depending on me for something, right? Oh, I don't want to have to tell my teacher I didn't do the homework. Oh, I don't want to have to tell my workout coach that I didn't do the workout, I didn't follow through on the eating plan. I have a coach right now that I have to text him everything that I eat. I was taking pictures with James and the crew last night of everything that I'm eating. And he sent back something. He's like, so about that macaroni and cheese, we're going to have a talk about that on Monday. Great. This is accountability, too. It's going to give me a little pain. Would that also do it? Allow me to shape up and go, okay, I think tonight needs to be a little clean. You get to no wiggle, right? Now, how do we look at accountability for effectiveness? Well, it can start with a buddy, okay? But a buddy, it's usually like a friend. Like you have a workout buddy. Buddy doesn't show up or you don't show up. Is that buddy really going to harass you? Maybe. Maybe you have a friend that will. Many of us, we go, oh, you've had a hard day. I totally get it. Yeah, no, take the workout off. It's fine. You got this, right? Why? Because there's nothing at stake for them about that friendship. The friendship is more important than your commitment. And so I like finding a neutral third party, okay? Or somebody that's a guide, somebody that's been on a path ahead of me. They know the way. They're like that Sherpa, like watch out for that turn. That's going to be a windy corridor. You're going to need extra layers as we go through this canyon, right? I want someone that's been the path. And so that can be a coach, a guide, could be a mentor. They may be certified, not certified, just somebody that's been the path a little bit ahead of you. All right? Now, with accountability, I also like having a little bit of something at stake. James is a big proponent of this. He loves doing this. It's like, if I fall off, it's going to be not just pain to tell somebody, it might even be pain to my bank account. There's a wonderful website that I've used in the past for diet. It's called Diet Bet. And they use pain and pleasure really effectively. It's everyone pools their money together. You put in, let's say, $100 or $1,000. Everyone puts in the pool, and you have to lose X number of pounds. And if you lose that pound or that goal weight, you all split the pot. And everybody would get their money back, and it would be no big deal. Except not everybody makes it, so you get a little pleasure that maybe there's a little bonus that comes back to you, right? So a little bit of pleasure. But a perceived amount of pleasure of, let's say, $1,000 doesn't usually pull people through. If I said, I'll give you $1,000 to not eat ice cream, you might do it today, you might do it tomorrow, but eventually you're going to be like, yeah, but I really like that ice cream, it's so good. And maybe he won't know. But the pain, if I have accountability, and let's say I work with Diet Bet, I lose that money that I put in. And studies have found that that's far more effective, as if I have not just carrot, but stick. And that stick pulls us through, okay? And so with the stick, how do I put myself at stake? That there's something at stake if I don't follow through. Well, I want to give myself either an accountability buddy or in my case, a coach. The coaches that I use for fitness, they charge me if I don't show up to the workout. I'm already paying. There's already pleasure of like, okay, I'm getting the results. If I don't show up to my scheduled time, they charge me money because I didn't come to my scheduled time. Sorry, Kevin. There goes your bank account. Another hit. And I hate it. I hate it when they charge me and I don't show up. So I love going. Another way is with Diet Bet. When everyone pools in their money, they split the pot. If they don't get it back. Now, what happens if somebody were to say, not only do you not get it back, but we'll charge you double? Whoo, I'm coming through on that commitment. Let's go. Because I don't want to lose the extra, whatever, $100 or $1,000 or what I put in, okay? So that's how we hold the bottom, that foundation together, is we really want it, and we have some process, but if I fall out on the bottom and don't have anybody looking to me, if I'm lone wolfing it, doing it by myself, not telling anybody this is what I'm up to, I'm probably not going to see long-term change, okay? Now, I'm going to stop for a moment and have us really look at with this doorway. I want you guys to think about it. You're presented with an opportunity for change, okay? Maybe it's, I want to lose 20 pounds. Okay, awesome, I want to see 20 pounds gone this year. And I know that I got the right process. I'm going to have a diet and workout plan. I'm going to put an accountability partner in. They're going to hold me accountable. Maybe it's a coach. Maybe it's somebody in this room. Okay? But if I don't have something at stake, I might go, well, something came up. What I would do is I would hold them accountable to taking the money out, and come back to using the doorway every time to keep going forward, moment by moment. Life happens between stimulus and response. Why is that? Because we get thoughts like a little toddler, like, oh, but how about now with the coffee? Oh, but how about now with the ice cream? And then even if it's sitting in the fridge, you walk by the fridge again, 10 minutes later, and I was committed the first time, but I'm like, well, how about now? It's like we have like really short memories when it comes to pain and pleasure. And then another 5 minutes, like, how about now? But how about now? But how about now? And then eventually we're like, I can't take it anymore. I'm just taking the ice cream out. Okay? And again, we're not going to go into the environment piece. That's its own talk. But if my commitment's strong enough and I keep using the doorway, that's how it can pull me through. So I just think about, I don't want to stay on this side of the door, and I step through. Okay? So this is a tool, once again, I use over and over. So I want you guys to now sit and think about it. So I'm going to give a minute of what are you going to think about for process? What are you going to think about for accountability? And then also how you're going to use the doorway effectively to remember the pain and move forward. So I'm going to give you a quick 1 minute to review. I want you guys, as you're looking at process, to look at if I don't know what process I'm going to use, who could I reach out to that might have already gone that path and have a process, or could lead me to a resource for process? Okay? Some of you probably already know what your process is going to be. We just now need the commitment part and the accountability to follow it up. Okay. Now, as you're filling in for these two sides where you're putting down anything for process, think about container. How long would I stick myself to a container? Is it 30 days, 90 days, 6 months? I like using short time periods. The brain can conceive it better if it's 30 to 90 days. I really like 90 days. It gives enough recency bias, which is a psychology piece that puts in our not too distant future who we're going to show up as today. If you've looked at the term self-signaling is when we do something again and again long enough, it eventually starts to become something that, it's not just something we're doing, it's something that we're being. So some of you might say, I'm just not drinking right now. You might actually say, like, I don't drink, or I don't smoke, or I don't drink coffee. And it's like, is that you as a person, or is that you've self-signaled back to you long enough that it's now become you? And 90 days is a great container for that. Okay, I'm going to shorten this a little bit just because I know we're getting close to time. I would love to hear from one or two of you something that you want to see change with, and maybe one or two words of why it's painful enough and what the future would look like for you. We don't have to go into process. We don't go into accountability quite yet. Just that commitment part. Does anyone feel comfortable to share? I know these can be really personal. It's usually an area I don't feel confident or awesome about. Yeah, please, Linz.
Well, so a couple of days ago, this just happened. I was taking my son, I don't know if I told you this actually, I was taking him to swim lessons, and it's only like a half an hour long, and he's like, Mommy, when we go, can you not be on your phone? And usually I'm working and I'm doing things like when he's swimming, I'll watch him, but then I'm like, I'm not being present, you know what I mean? And that really hit home when he said that. So I do have like workaholic tendencies where I just sometimes don't know when to stop because I can just pick up my phone or whatever, you know? So I think that for me, being more present and figuring out what I can do to, you know, hey, I don't take my phone in there when he's swimming and I'm not on it, you know? So, I don't know.
Can I offer something?
Sure.
If it were me, the pain of a child and like a disappointment is a great impact, right? And I would put the face of your son or daughter, like I would put it on your phone. So when I pick it up, it's a reminder to me of like, how are they going to feel as I'm with this thing? That's a quick hit, and you're like, oh yeah. And then you move into that smiling face of them when you're there, you're with them, right? So we're using those pain and pleasure pieces to create change. Now we could change environment too. We could, leave the phone at home, airplane mode, right? Again, we can go on an environment for its own half a day just on structuring environment. But usually we can't always control environment. Like I can't control what's on a menu. You can't always control maybe where to put the phone if you need it by you for like a real specific phone call, which I get. And so that's where I would use it. I love that you're using this to be more present with kids. This is amazing. So good. It's a real problem. I mean, all of us, I think, can agree that the cell phone has now become like an extension, where it's like a second hand or a second leg, or third leg, third, you know what I mean. Anyone else feel comfortable in sharing one of the changes you want to make, some of the pain and some of the pleasure of what you're going to move towards? Yeah, please, Christina.
Since I've been alcohol-free, I used to have a tremendous Coca-Cola habit. So I say Coke habit, people like thinking of other things, but Coca-Cola. And, when I was drinking, I'd say, well, at least I'm not drinking soft drinks, because everybody knows that's poison kind of thing. But since I've been alcohol-free, I've gotten back into drinking too many soft drinks. That sugar craving, like chocolate and ice cream, I don't care about. But but the Coca-Cola is a thing, and it was kind of the thing that was even an identity.
Yes. Oh, like I love Coke. I love
Coke.
Right.
I went to Coca-Cola U. Coca-Cola paid for my, so I went to every university. They paid for my education, etc. So there's brand loyalty and stuff like that. But it's not good for me. I was in the bodega buying Mexican Coke. So I'm like, at least if I'm going to drink it, at least drink the good stuff, right? But they're $2 a piece. I'd go in there, buy 5 at a time, put down $10 or whatever, have them at home. But then I see that I can't just have one. It was the same thing with me and drinking. You can't just have one.
Sure.
Dopamine hit. And the guy in the bodega said to me the other day, he's like, a regular. He's like, this is your alcohol. And I never bought alcohol from him. He doesn't even sell it, I don't think. But he's like, this is your alcohol. And so it's a habit that I need to get out of because of just the inflammation from the sugar and potential weight gain. And I do want to lose a little bit more weight than what I have in the past year. So
perfect.
That's
Can I offer something in here?
Sure. Absolutely.
That's pain of the impact so far. Where am I going to be in 5-10 years when I'm pre-diabetic? Okay. Maybe there's a heart condition. Maybe there's cancer that shows up because the sugar is feeding those cancerous cells. That to me is what I think of too when I think of sugar. And again, is Coca-Cola good or bad? It depends on the person, right? It depends on the person, their relationship to it, their specific. So I don't look at Coca-Cola as good or bad. It's simply a substance, and the impact for you that it's had for you is what's important, and where it's likely to lead if I keep the same behavior. So now there's impact, there's reason for change. Now the pleasure of you standing in a new future, I could look at, oh my gosh, but I'm going to be without the thing. But if I'm moving towards that version of self where she's healthy, vibrant, energetic, alive, I like being free. I think of like imprisonment with a behavior. I was like, I don't want to feel trapped and always having to have that. Or even what's fun is now people seeing me that I'm not the regular that's coming in for my usual fix. Yeah. They know you by name there, but I know your usual, right? Yeah. And then they slide you a Coke, right? But that gets to change, right? And so I want you to envision standing in a new future where your body is vibrant, alive. I have movement, flexibility, energy that's sustained throughout the day. And even if I'm not seeing it now, many people get upset that oh my gosh, but when am I going to find that? Future state. It's not about the result in the future. It's about who I become. Who I become is far more important than the results that I receive. You're going to look back on your life and you go, that was an interesting ride. Who did I end up being over this life? And I'm sure this could be an inflection point for you where something massively changes. Good for you. I love this. Anyone else feel called to share? Okay. I'm not going to make you share. These are very personal. I know that these are not easy to share, so thank you for those that shared. This is great. These changes get to happen. Remember that framework. This thing, it's rooted in psychology, behavioral studies. Like, this stuff really works. Now, there's different ways that this plays out. You'll find it in a whole bunch of, you'll start seeing it everywhere when you look at like how fitness programs are put together, or maybe even some elements inside of Project 90, or like, you'll start seeing it everywhere. And it's because this stuff really works. Cool. So remember, the one hack that I really want you to take away that's really implementable is that doorway piece. And it's a very quick, you guys ever read the 5-second rule or seen the TED Talk 5-second rule? Okay, yeah, great. Mel Robbins, yeah. Why is that really effective? Very simple. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, action. Now, what's behind that, why it's effective, is because we have a neural net association of what we have a relationship to, thousands of hours of doing the same thing. So if I go longer than 5 seconds, it's into the matrix. It's in this big tumbleweed of when this happens, I'm going to feel that, and I'm going to get that dopamine hit, and that's going to feel good. But when I stop it, I sever, and a new neural pathway starts to become formed because I'm taking a new unknown action, and that's going to start feeding a whole new neural pathway. Cool? So that's for my nerds out there. Now, that's all I have for today. Thank you. I really look forward to seeing what you guys create with this change in your life.
Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. I want to load you up with some free stuff. If you look in the show description, there's a link there to get my guide, which is the Alcohol Freedom Formula Guide. And in that guide, I will walk you through the process and system for successfully reducing or quitting alcohol. It's the same system and process that I give to my clients inside of Project 90. And if you would like to get your hands on that guide, you can click the link in the description part of this episode, or you can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. Likewise, if you would like to be considered for Project 90 to join our community and get some accountability, some coaching, and have fun, achieve some goals over at least 90 days with our help and support, then you're invited to schedule a complimentary coaching call with one of my coaches. You can do that by clicking the link in the show description or going to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/schedule. Now, Project 90 is for over 30s only. And it's really for people who are ready to get long-term power over alcohol. You don't have to quit forever, but you will have to quit for at least 90 days with our support. Just a reminder, 95% of my content is free and plastered all over the internet. If you just Google James Swanwick and the word alcohol, you'll find that. For those of you who want additional support, if you want coaching, fun, accountability, if you realize that you can't do this on your own or you just plain don't want to, then I invite you to schedule that call and we can talk about if Project 90 is for you. If you would like to take some of my supplements, swanvitality.com is the website. I'll put a link in the show notes as well. I have a liver support product called Loving Liver, which I designed and specially formulated to help remove toxins from your liver after years of alcohol consumption. Again, there's a link in the show description. We've also got a green powder there, which turns into a green juice filled with amazing ingredients to support you and give you energy throughout the day. And there's also a magnesium product, which I take every night to help me prepare for sleep and to sleep through the night. So there's a few options there. Lastly, if this episode or the show in general has helped you or supported you in any way, I would so appreciate it if you would write a review. It really does help the show climb the rankings and expose the show to people who don't yet know about us. So if this show has benefited you in any way and you feel compelled to pay it forward, just writing a short little review, hopefully a nice one, will be so appreciated and I will thank you immensely. Lastly, if you'd like to talk to me about anything at all, feel free to send me an email at james@alcoholfreelifestyle.com. I do read and respond to every email. And you can also follow me on Instagram at James Swanwick. Send me a message there. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. Catch you on the next one.